Well, one of history's biggest mysteries, Atlantis.
Ah, yes, the legendary island.
That magnificent civilization that supposedly vanished, poof, overnight. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. In this deep dive, we'll look at Plato's original story, try to figure out if Atlantis was real, maybe a distorted memory of some catastrophe or just a powerful moral tale.
And I think our mission here is really to explore why it grips us so much. We're going to look at a sort of balanced view.
Right.
The idea that Atlantis is probably this masterfully woven thing, a composite. Yeah, blending bits of real events, real places maybe, with these deep philosophical lessons Plato wanted to teach. It's almost like a blueprint for how powerful myths get made.
Right. So let's start with Plato himself then, the source.
Makes sense.
In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, this is around 360 BCE, he doesn't present it like fiction, he frames it as actual history.
He claims it's a real account.
Yeah, passed down from Egyptian priests to Solon, the Athenian statesman, and then through generations.
That adds a layer of authenticity, doesn't it? Or supposed authenticity.
Exactly. And he describes it beyond the Pillars of
The
Hercules.
Strait of Gibraltar, basically.
Right. And huge, he says, larger than Libya and Asia combined. Super advanced architecture, warfare, all that stuff.
But there's a catch.
There always is. They became morally corrupt, greedy, tried to conquer everything.
Hubris.
And so the gods, well, they weren't happy. Destroyed it all in just one day and night. Earthquakes, floods, the whole disaster.
Totally.
So my question is, given Plato was a philosopher, how much of this did he actually believe was history versus, a clever story to make a point?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Look, he absolutely used it as an allegory, a huge cautionary tale about empire, about losing your way morally.
Okay.
But, and this is the fascinating part, he didn't seem to just pull it out of thin air. He used specific details, the location, the size that sort of grounded it.
Made it feel real.
Exactly. Made it plausible, even while serving this deeper philosophical purpose. That's where that composite idea really starts to make sense.
Okay, so if we're hunting for real-world echoes, the Minoan civilization always comes up. Santorini, ancient Thera.
Ah, yes. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right. This seems like a strong contender for part of the story.
Absolutely. Around 1600 BCE, there was this colossal volcanic eruption on the Santorini. I mean, it basically blew the island apart.
Wow.
And that eruption undoubtedly caused massive tsunamis, ash clouds, climate disruption. It would have absolutely hammered the Minoan civilization on nearby Crete.
Which was a very advanced society itself.
Highly advanced, maritime, sophisticated, the eruption likely triggered, or at least massively contributed to, their cultural collapse. So the parallels: advanced island society, sudden catastrophic destruction by natural forces, location relative to Greece, they're really striking.
So the Minoan theory is, well, it's a very plausible piece of the puzzle.
A very strong candidate for influencing the myth, yes, but maybe not the whole story Plato told.
Right, not the giant continent larger than Libya in Asia.
Right.
Which makes you wonder about all those other places people suggest, the Azores, Antarctica. I've even heard theories about the Caribbean, like near Cuba or the Bimini Road.
Yeah, those pop up. Generally, they lack, shall we say, conclusive evidence.
Right.
But what's undeniable, regardless of location, is the symbolic power. For Plato, that was key. Atlantis was the ultimate parable.
A bad example.
Precisely. The powerful, wealthy society corrupted by arrogance and greed. He contrasts it with his idealized ancient Athens, virtuous, simple, noble.
Decadence versus virtue.
That's the core theme. And that warning about societal collapse due to moral failings, that resonates everywhere, even today.
Okay, but let's talk science for a second. A whole continent just sinking overnight.
Yeah.
That feels geologically, well, impossible.
You're absolutely right. Continents don't just vanish in a day. Plate tectonics, that takes millions of years.
So how do you explain the sinking part of the story?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the perception of a sinking land is different. Think about massive local disasters.
Like tsunamis.
Exactly. Or those huge volcanic explosions like Thera, or even significant sea level rise after, say, an ice age. These can absolutely create stories of lands lost beneath the oceans.
So not the land sinking, but the water rising or washing over it.
Precisely. We have real examples of lost lands from natural history. Sundaland in Southeast Asia, Doggerland in the North Sea, parts of the Black Sea coast, the Persian Gulf Basin, all flooded after the last ice age.
So myth can kind of encode these fragments of real environmental change over time.
It seems very likely these dramatic events leave deep cultural scars and memories.
So wrapping this up, what does Atlantis mean for you listening now? It really seems to stand right at that crossroads, doesn't it? Between myth and potential reality. It's this constant reminder of how fragile even the greatest civilizations might be. It's not just about finding a sunken island.
No, it's much more about our relationship with power, with nature, with memory itself. And maybe the final thought, the really provocative one, is this. The mystery keeps us hooked, of course. But maybe the greatest loss isn't some forgotten land or treasure.
What then?
Maybe it's losing the wisdom to avoid making the same mistakes, the arrogance, the greed that supposedly doomed Atlantis in the first place.